Just share with me, kind of, what do you remember about the first time we met?
I remember that you were going to go to Uganda. You were going to be a teacher for our missionary kids. And I remember that you read your news on your computer.
On the internet.
On the interweb.
Yeah. And I remember that same interview because I'd filled out this stuff on an application and you're like scanning with it over your finger and you're kind of like, Matt, I've never heard of any of these things.
Yeah.
And what I think was remarkable to me in that moment was honestly your humility. Rather than being threatened by like, here's this young guy who has figured out how to find news in a place I never thought to look for it, you were just curious and interested.
Well, I've tried to be a curious learner most of my life. And you have a lot to teach me.
Well, I have a lot of opinions. Yeah, my family motto is never in doubt, but not always right.
I like God strikes straight blows with crooked sticks better.
That's good. So a few years after we met, you began leading Serge as executive director. And part of that was you kind of did like this goodwill tour throughout the whole company. I was in Uganda. I remember you kind of asking me, what do you think about the name World Harvest Mission, Matt? And talk to me a little bit about what your thinking was, back when you started taking over about the name.
Well, we had a lot of confusion over the name. There's World this, Harvest that. We would get calls asking if we delivered potatoes to hungry people. Yeah. And there's like a harvest church. So we engaged a consultant to take a look at, we just wanted to refresh our name. Yeah. He spent a year doing discovery and said, look, you've got massive confusion out there. You really need a name change.
We had that conversation in 2005, so you were already thinking maybe we needed to do this. And then I think we actually changed our name in 2014.
It was 10 years ago.
Talk to me a little bit just about that sweep of time. That's a long time between germinating an idea and it actually happening.
Well, there's a lot going on in our company. We were recovering from a period where we were divided, we were not aligned, there was confusion about should we be a missions agency or renewal agency or a book company, what should we be? And so I tried to spend a fair amount of time just trying to align the leadership around our vision, mission, and values. Right. And so that's what was going on during that period. And so we had the consultant really embedded in our work for over 2 years. He really got to know us. And I think that the most amazing thing that they came up with was our tagline, Graceatthefray. Yeah. Because, we live in a divided, messed up world. Right. And just that image of taking the roughness, the rough edges of life, and God joining that together and providing a perfect seam, to me is really a picture of God's grace and beauty.
Yeah, so that tagline is kind of an expression of our name as a company, Serge, which you were instrumental in leading us into that new name. One, like, what does that name mean to you? 2, how did you feel about it when you first heard it? And 3, kind of what have you learned through that arc of a name change?
Those are some big questions. The first thing, I had a lot of fear that I was going to be the person who killed World Harvest Mission. Right. And that was uppermost in my thinking. And then I thought, well, we're probably going to lose a lot of money. And then we're going to lose a lot of people, and then we're going to lose a lot of churches. And so that's what I was thinking. And honestly, when I first heard the name, I didn't like it. It just didn't grab me. And we were making a decision with 2 other executive leaders on my team. And we said on Friday, here's what it is. Yeah. And by Monday, it's thumbs up or thumbs down. And so it was really 2 against 1. Both of them were for it, and I was against it. And so I didn't sleep at all that weekend. And I came in and I weighed in and I agreed that yes, wow, Serge could be our next name.
So that's even just a big moment to put a pin in, you and 2 leaders working with you and under you were for something. You were against it, but you were willing to go with them.
Well, they were going to be the prime carriers of that message to our folks. And if they were passionate about it, if they were committed, I was convinced that they could also get others on board with that name.
Wow. For you in that moment, leadership isn't directing people. Leadership is getting behind people and supporting people.
And listening well.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was convinced. If they're for it, I need to be for it also.
That's a profound lesson. So now that we're 10 years down the road with this name, what's some of the lift that you've seen kind of come out of this name change for us?
Well, we didn't lose people. We didn't lose money. In fact, we actually grew tremendously during that period. If you look back over the past 10 years, we've been doubling during that time period. And so I think the name, it doesn't feel old and stodgy and yeah, it feels, I think it feels warm and attractive to young people.
One of the things that I see Serge doing for us well is it lets us talk about our organization using one metaphor to describe both our renewal work and our missions work.
Well, we are one mission. We need to hold all of those in tension together, because as our hearts are renewed, then we want to go out and do something for Jesus. As we're going out and doing something for Jesus, if our hearts aren't renewed, then that's really activism. It's really Christian activism. You can take God out of the equation on either side. So what we want to do is stay on the balancing beam of holding missions and renewal in tension in our lives. We also want to send people overseas who have had that same transformation.
And I love how Grace at the Fray, our hearts can be fraying. Our hearts are fraying. We are unraveling. And I love that fray is also a metaphor for just mission in the world. The world is unraveling. I mean, whether you read your news on the internet or on the newspaper, we are constantly bombarded with stories of the world unraveling. So kind of when you look into the future and you think about if over the last 20 years, these major benchmarks of, aligning the organization around a bigger vision than maybe some people are comfortable with, and changing our name and growing significantly, and the challenges that came with that growth. What are some of the things that you look to the next 20 years with excitement?
I'm excited for our renewal work, growing and equipping the church to disciple folks well. I think the church is really hungry for good discipleship. It's also the largest transfer of wealth in human history. And so as Serge grows financially, I think the future is bright and exciting. I think that Serge has gotten to a level of scope and scale and influence that our reach and impact can also grow.